Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, Azakai here, bringing to you another video for Conqueror's Blade, published by Porus Interactive, and we have the usual update log for October 24th. Goes from the maintenance time will be 1400 to 1700 UTC plus 8 on October 24th, and that will be 7 to 10 for UTC plus 1. Expected maintenance time is 3 hours. We'll get 8,000 bronze coins, 300 honor, and 15 unit medals of compensation. We have the season Doctrine Challenge event is open. So open up F5 to access the Doctrine challenges. We have stage 1 with the Retail Pistoliers title Assault. Roar of Powder deals an extra 15% damage to enemies hit by tearing strike within 15 seconds. Stage 2 gives us the Swine Feathers March Order after the Cheval de Frise is deployed, so movement speed will increase by 15%. The effect disappears after replenishment. Stage 3 is the Lion's Royal Crew Guard. Reduce the cooldown of defensive shooting by 3 seconds. For stage 4, 5, and 6, we all get they're all the same historical seasonal doctrine selection box. You can complete up to 30 challenge quests. For every 5 challenge quests completed, you can unlock the rewards of one stage. P.S. There are 20 quests in the Doctrine challenges. Warlords with premium account activated could unlock an extra 10 challenge quests. Doctrine challenge quests cannot be completed through Sovereign Payoff. Probably one of the good things about this event. Period for quest completion is the 24th of the 10th after maintenance and to the 7th of the 11th. Period for reward claim is the 24th of the 10th after maintenance and the 14th before maintenance. 14th of the 11th before maintenance. New doctrines added to the historical seasonal doctrine selection box. They are the old doctrines. I think the Companion Cavalry and the Sunward's Phalanx ones are really good. Definitely worth a pickup. Especially if you use it. I mean, obviously, if you use it, you grab them. Limited time doctrine pool rotation. So we got a rotation from to the Flying Meteor Ancient Battlefield, and you'll get an increased chance to find epic firearm doctrines at this location. Goes from the 24th of the 10th after maintenance to the 7th of the 11th before maintenance. Limited time free doctrine removing. So of course, removing doctrine doesn't cost any Lotus water. It goes from the 26th of the 10th to the 27th of the 10th. So we got this weekend to do it, and this is midnight on the 27th of the 10th. So systems adjustments and optimization. Siege battle optimized partial area of the season map star Bastion fixed the display issue of the destructible city wall of White Elk Fort. House and territory walls optimize the UI display when the territory wall front is open, looking nice. Optimize the digital display of House Fund. Bug fix and optimization. Optimize the information shared in the chat bar. Now, the displayed information will automatically adapt to the client selected language. Um, Not entirely sure what that means. There was like weird stuff happening when people like would link a city, but but their client would be in like Chinese or something, and I could click on it, but it wouldn't pull up anything because like the name to it would need to be in English or something. So it kind of like broke there. Fixed the issue where the unit mount attire of ranked bounty 100 riders can be equipped on to the units besides 1G heavy cavalry. Actually have not really experienced this myself, but that seems really funny. Now, switching over, we have apparently an additional unit balance adjustment notice, though most of these are related to the PTR. I'm going to express some of my opinions once I finish reading these out. So, unit balance adjustment notice. We got the Berserkers. Reduce basic leadership from 245 to 230. Again, making them more efficient is a bad move. They are very prone to going out of control, especially when you put them in a hyper or put them in a cost-effective um, kind of cost-effective threshold. Increase basic unit size from 8 to 9. Not as crazy as 12. 9 doesn't seem like anything. Increase basic health from 1400, um, sorry, 14,107 to 16,223. So this is an extra 2k health. That should push them over the 20k mark. I don't think it's going to be the 21, but it could go over to 21. But still, that's more than what? That's a 15% increase in survivability. Not the greatest thing. It's still worrying for me to consider berserkers to be tanky. I think it's actually really dependent on the meta, and it only pushes forward a more burst orientated style. So yeah, that's a little bit scary. Increased damage of berserkers by 10%. Still a little bit worried, not too much, but besides the tankiness, you could afford to actually increase the damage more. Their damage is freaky, but that's only because of the single model and the individual damage numbers were totally crazy. But when you put it in perspective, it actually wasn't that bad. Um, that being said, it looks bad. Reduce the required stacks for the extra healing effect of Battle Madness from 10 to 7. A logistical thing. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think that's gonna change anything in the grand scheme of things. Increase the slashing damage when Battle Madness is activated from 20 to 40. So instead of the 200 cap, now you have 400 cap. Reduce the extra damage taken when Frenzy is activated from 43 to 35. Again, making them more tanky, reducing the penalty of Frenzy, makes them more efficient. I seriously am concerned about this change in particular rather than any of the other changes that came before because first of all the unit size change has been drastically reduced to 12.5% and the basic leadership changes is based like not even a six or 7-ish% change, but this reduction in extra damage taken when frenzy is activated from 23 to I mean from 43 to 35, even though that's 7, that's that's still like it's almost 15% reduction in penalty. And how the damage resistance works could be a one-to-one scenario. I don't want to deal with berserkers that have 25% damage resistance instead of the 17%. You could be pushing it and hitting breakpoints that could easily make berserkers go insane. And berserkers are fairly they're susceptible to damage, but that's because they have to be. If they're not, particularly tank style units, just going to have no hope against these guys. And I'm really worried because in tier, I don't think there's very many units that can deal with berserkers besides those that are either already in the meta or those that have ridiculous amount of damage in the first place. At this point, I think even paladins, which are crazy strong, in retrospect, are going to get beaten up. Grey hair garrisons were beating berserkers for a while, and that's going to change. So yeah, I'm very worried about the frenzy change more than anything, and I definitely do think that the sustain really needs to go if you want to push berserkers into the meta without causing uh massive issues for everyone. Increase the rage gain from taking damage and killing enemy units by 100%, and remove the upper limit of the rage that can be obtained from a single attack of the enemy. They they increased it.
Good to
It
know.
was basically
Well, that
instant,
sounds
and they
like a good
increased it
idea.
again, which is absolutely hilarious. Like, you tickle one of the berserkers for like 20% health, they'll get full stack. God forbid you hit more than one berserker. All right, Hashashin, fix the issue where Prowl may not
Well,
activate it.
I will
May
never
not be
forget
activated
that.
when the target was not within a certain range. Optimize the moving animation. Optimize their enemy searching
Let's
logic
do that.
and gave them
One day.
priority to attacking
I
ranged
hate
units.
that I should be called like this.
Again, a lot of bug fixes kind of thing. Liao ranges increase the maximum movement speed from 10.5 to 12. Optimize their mobile turning action as well as pathfinding and enemy searching logic. Reduce the cooldown of Fire Lance shooting when using normal attacks from 12
Telling the truth,
to 18
let's
to 8
forget
to
the good
13
old
seconds.
days.
Increase basic blunt armor penetration from 1656 to 1856, so 200 increase. That's roughly around about a 10% damage increase, roughly. Or it could be slightly more than that, depending on how much blunt armor they have. If they have something like over 900, oh, in this case 800, it would be basically a 10% damage increase. But you're probably going to get half that amount,
Well, the young
which is
ones
probably about
have bad
5%.
tears. They say
Basic blunt damage
I shall one day find a
from
clean war.
1246 to 1485. Big old 16, probably closer to 17% increase. Increase bludgeon armor penetration by 15% and damage by 10%. Not really. I mean, bludgeon at this point is still weaker than the Wu Wei's brutal sweep, which is hilarious considering, again, it's like you're talking about a tier 5 cavalry that has less models versus a unit that's infantry. And not to mention, like, bludgeon is pretty spammable, but not as spammable as the Wu Wei Matching Guards. Um, so bludgeon is still weaker than the Wu Wei's pound for pound. So model per model, I'm saying. And in total, it's just the unit's just going to be weaker as well. So again, no point to use Liao Rangers if like Wu
I
Wei
do
literally
hope
is
I
the
will never
better
forget.
like slapper than the Liao Rangers. Increased devastation damage by 10%. Really terrible. Um, that is like that's really stupid because devastation is so weak. Like, there's no point in using devastation comparatively when bludgeon is like as not as strong. Basically, it does the amount of damage that devastation does in a shorter time frame. A blood like an entire attack cycle from devastation, bludgeon can do in a single attack, which is hilarious. And it just goes to show how weak devastation is in comparison to their bludgeon skill, which again, bludgeon's really spammable. It's on a really short cooldown. Devastation is on a super long cooldown. I think it's like 43 seconds or something, and it
We
lasts for
should
8
do
seconds,
that
and
one day.
it's not that good.
Maybe I have to
I
get
don't
back
think
to
anyone's ever going to use
this.
Devastation except as a filler. Um, Still, really think that the Devastation damage should be buffed way up, way up. If we're talking about force, if we're talking about putting the Liaos into the meta, first of all, Bludgeon still needs a 25% damage increase from even with the 10% increase from here, it needs an
Telling the
additional
truth,
25% increase.
we must forget
The
the old
devastation
ideas.
damage needs to be increased by at least 40 or 50%. And that's not even a joke. It needs to be either 40, it needs to be more than 40% damage increase. If you want to make it as good as Bludgeon for the duration and the time, I mean, just to make it as good, just like the impact, the power, it needs to compete with Bludgeon. Otherwise, you would just use Bludgeon at verbatim, like just use Bludgeon because Bludgeon is just superior. But if we get that 40 to 50% increased damage on top of this 10% extra damage, we could see Devastation um, become popular as a click in. I mean, like as the ability to use. The increase blast accuracy by 50% and the armor penetration and damage by 25%. Oh my goodness. I did not realize how shitty the actual damage of blast was. The accuracy was also still atrocious, but that's besides the point. It's mostly supposed to hit cavalry. I seriously think that they should just get rid of the idea that like Liao Rangers are an anti-cavalry unit and it's going to be used against infantry. 99% of the time, it's going to be used against infantry. And Blast as an anti-cavalry thing, it's a cool idea. You've fucked it up by having issues with targeting, and you can't move them when you activate it. So again, you're going to be a sitting duck and get slaughtered by any charge cavalry. And God forbid you go up against Zwaji heavy cavalry, they'll not only dodge your shots, they'll swing around and clean you through. But that's besides the point. I think the armor penetration and the damage portion, the total throughput is actually really high. But because of the low accuracy still, it's and low usability, it's actually not very good to use. So if I was just to buff the thing in terms of raw damage and not change anything usability wise,
I would never.
oh man, I think I think I would not I think you would not be out of place by increasing the damage by 100%. And that's kind of scary because if you put it to 100% increase, we're kind of matching the damage output from
We could
bludgeoned.
stay that way. One
We're
day.
basically matching the damage output from bludgeon in this
More
case,
about this.
which again, it's scary because it just shows how weak some of these abilities are. And let me make another point as well. Liao Rangers cannot get access to both Devastation and Blast at the same time. So I think it's really redundant that you have these really cool abilities, but
To attain the truth
everyone was going to use
exactly
Bludgeon.
of our dreams.
No one's going to use the other abilities unless Bludgeon's on cooldown. And Bludgeon has a low cooldown as it is. All right, continuing off, we also have the added a new unit trait, Drains. Each time they hit
Will
the
one day be the king
target
of
units,
Liyue.
they will restore 500 health. After restoring 2,500 health, they will gain a Drain debuff lasting for 3 seconds.
Break through the
When they
clouds.
can knock down the
They
enemy
will never
via
be
all their
defeated.
attacks and obtain a 10% movement speed bonus for and 20% damage reduction. Hmm. Does this cause a hard lockout, or just every hit is 500 health? Every hit 500 health. What does that equal? I mean, in certain scenarios, if this goes out of control, like on the PTI, it didn't seem that strong. And if this reads correctly, like if you could heal with one bludgeon, 3,000 health technically. So they should be getting like a quarter of their health with every swing, if it is each per target, not attack. So there's no cap on the attack. I think there's a cap on the healing. Well, we'll have to see. Apparently, we have the Lion's Roar crew
You must
getting
forget the
buffed.
old ideals.
Reduce basic artillery deployment time from 11 seconds to 9 seconds. Increase the range of artillery from 80 to 120. Um, are they insane? 120, 120 max range. That was uncalled for. Absolutely uncalled for. Increase their speed under the state of pushing artilleries from 2.3 to 2.7. Again, that that's cool. Just increases their usability. Doesn't really matter too much. Reduce the damage fall off on siege
Every good
engines
spirit
from
who
20,
enters
sorry,
can't be
85% to
allowed to leave
75%.
something like this.
I think they meant increase the damage fall off on. Oh wait, no, hang on. Let me reverse this. So they're reducing the amount of damage reduction. Sorry, this I mean, sorry. Let me just read this verbatim. Reduce the damage fall off on siege engines from 85% to 75%. So they'll do more damage to siege engines now. So they definitely want Lion's Roar crew to deal with
No
siege
wonder you're the
towers.
queen of the north.
Interesting that they've done it like this, but I think the Falconetti Gunners should have been the go-to pick for long-range artillery. I'm really concerned about why they have made it so that Lions Royal Crew now have an absurd attack range again, and they're making them effective against siege engines. But we'll have to see. Again, this did not hit the PTR, so no one's tested this version of the Lions Royal Crew, and roughly their damage is
To
probably
attain the truth,
still very
you must
similar to
forget
what we
the
were
old
expecting on the
ideals.
PTR. Very similar to what we, not very similar, but like it's still weird. It's kind of inconsistent. There are some times where they'll hit perfect and just slaughter a whole bunch of units. Sometimes they'll hit the same, like the harder the unit they hit, the more difficult it is to kill them. But if they shoot weak units, they'll shred it, which is
Branches
really
fall.
strange. It's
I
just
will
really weird that way.
remember that.
Um, we also have Rattan Marksman, reduce the chance of poison attacks by 20%, reduce the slow down effect of poison weapons on the enemy, reduce basic slowdown duration from 8 seconds to 6, reduce basic slowdown um, efficiency from 20% to 10%.
Huh?
Um, I'm so weirded out there. So, I have no idea what they're referring to as the slowdown efficiency, except for the fact that poison weapons, especially for the fact that rattan marksmen should not have a slowdown effect this high, or a slowdown effect in its entirety in the first place. So
To
it's just
attain the
like
truth.
they they had to have changed. They had to have changed it at some point. Oh man, that's really annoying. Really annoying. They added a slow to the poison weapon thing, and I don't know when, and I've never known it to be 20%. That would also explain why, when you're at max stack, you would virtually have zero movement speed. There should be a cap on the movement speed. And it does kind of prove a point that it's actually multiplicative movement speed. So each stack reduces your movement speed by 20%. stacking multiplicatively, which is hilarious. Still, that is really bad because poison weapon could affect other things as collateral. Like
Queen Christina.
I'm not even sure if
One
like
day.
Destroy them!
maybe they decoupled the very heavy armor from. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. I really wanted them to fix the unit without killing other units, but if they hit other units in the crosshairs, Rattan Pikemen in particular feels like they're not doing very well. Rattan Vipers definitely not doing very well, and Rattan Rattan Rangers definitely could seen better days. I think the way they've done the Rattan Marksman was a mistake. Absolute mistake. They should have gone after the damage.
Queen
They shouldn't have gone
Christina.
after this stuff. This
One
stuff was
day.
basically
Maybe I have to get used to it.
an afterthought for me. Their damage with fully stacked poison is ridiculous. What they should have done is reduce the poison stack to one, their default, because I think it's five. And when you add the doctrine, special doctrine, it goes seven.
Right through the fog.
I'm
I
also getting
won't be
conflicting
back.
reports though. It's just like some people saying it's five and the natural is three, but I'm not sure if it's either changing or people are just not getting full stacks before they die. I hate a lot of these changes, but the Rattan Marksman one are the worst one for me because it affects something which is not fully explained because we don't know the effects of we actually do not know the effects of poison weapon.
Uh-huh!
First of all, they don't even have poisoned weapon, which is hilarious because we know that they shoot poison bolts. It's like expressly a thing they do. But in retrospect,
看你蹦个原死机
poison
喽！
weapon is only on the Rattan Vipers and the Rattan Pikemen. So I'm just really pissed right now about
我们
reading
不
that.
走老乡，一个二个都雄赳赳。
At the end days.
Finally, we have Wu Wei Matching Guards. Adjustment of the Brutal Sweep knockback effect. A hero can only be knocked back by Brutal Sweep once within 7 seconds. The effect of the unit remains unchanged. Fine. I don't particularly care that much about heroes getting knocked around. The Wu Wei Matching Guards will still rip through units with their insane damage, be very difficult to kill with their hyper sustain. You're going to just be a gamble on whether or not you hit them before they start swinging and put them on their ass because they no longer recover from CC when you activate the skill because previously they did, but they removed that. I am seriously annoyed about a lot of these changes. The Lions Roar crew came out of nowhere. The Wu Wei Matching Guard is still not enough. Rattan Marksman looks strange, and I'm very afraid whether or not it's going to cause collateral. Liao Rangers did not go far enough. Ashashin's just AI optimization. I'm terrified of Berserkers, but at the same time, I don't think Berserkers are going to head into the meta. It's just going to be a garbage killer. It's trash killer. It's basically Nodachi. It's hilarious as well. Nodachi got super buffed by the doctrine that they introduced last season, and it's again this for this season. If they just had that heroic blessing passive, like maybe like the Dragon Fleet reset makes their cooldowns like super crazy as well. So that's still super strong, but the heroic blessing is realistically the bread and butter of um, what makes them OP. So I'm I'm disappointed, to say the very least. Unit balance changes again. I always look forward to unit balance changes, but this one, whew, I gave my thoughts about the PTR, and they didn't listen, or they didn't care. Because the Loyal Rangers one has basically stayed the same. Apparently a bunch of people were saying the Berserkers were crazy. I'll tell you right now, they're not. Even on the PTR version, they weren't crazy crazy. You'll still watch them get absolutely deleted. That's because they're really easy to kill in the Hyperburst meta by select units, mind you. Um, Obviously, it's damage orientated units, but I'm not sure. I'm absolutely not sure how to look at this. Anyway, that is all for this week's announcement. I'm hoping the developers get their head out of their ass and actually think before they cause a complete meta shift into a direction of a single unit, because I'm really feeling like they wanted Berserkers to get it back into the meta. I really don't think they understand how without causing Berserkers to become too cost efficient. Regardless, that is all. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. But other than that, my name's Atsuko. Have a nice day. Bye for now.